Welcome everyone to an entirely new series on my channel, the What If Cars. In this series I'm going to release my sick fantasies and also take your requests. By using this car building game as a tool, I'm going to create fictional and alternative universe What If Cars. Now I could sit here and explain in another 10 minutes in great detail what this game is all about, but as my fellow colleague Bill from Curious Cars would put it,
just gonna leap and dive directly into this particular car.
Lincoln was pretty much on a roll in the first half of the 70s. The personal luxury car Continental Mark IV sold like hotcakes, but dark clouds were looming over the luxury car maker. New rules regarding emissions and safety were coming up, as well as increasing gas prices. And so we enter 1977, our year for this car. In 1977, Lincoln released two new models, the new generation and subtly redesigned personal luxury coupe, the Mark V, and to combat the new compact Cadillac Seville and cater to those who want luxury in a smaller package, Lincoln released the all-new Lincoln Versailles, which I regard as one of the saddest American cars ever made. I mean, come on, it's an overchromed Ford Granada, and I don't like that car either. Considering Lincoln made some great money by offering limited edition and designer series of their cars, what would be a great next step? Old world European elegance was still very much in vogue at the time, and what if Lincoln would add another car to the lineup? A car freshly imported from Europe. The British Aston Martin had just released their new flagship model, the ultra-advanced Lagonda, with the radical wedge-shaped styling. This could be a perfect fit for Lincoln, another personal luxury car to add to the fleet. Lincoln made a deal with Aston Martin and they have asked me to design the car for the American market. Let's design the 1977 Lincoln Lagonda. Alright, let's start with the engine. Now, a regular Aston Martin Vantage was powered by quite a big engine, a 5.3 liter or 326 cubic inch dual overhead cam V8, making a healthy 280 horsepower, and that was even good for the mid-70s Malaise era numbers. But considering that dual overhead cam is way too overcomplicated for Americans, we're going to swap out the original Lagonda engine and change it for a Lincoln engine. Now, the engine that comes the closest to the original displacement of the Vantage engine, 5.3 liters, is Lincoln's newly introduced 5.8 liter or 351 cubic inch Windsor V8 that was put into the Lincoln Versailles. And so we're going to borrow this engine and recreate it in this game. And I'm just going to do it my way. It's not going to be a one-on-one realistic digital version. I'm just going to make my version of it. So let's start with a V layout, 90 degrees, 8 cylinders. And of course the engine is just going to be made of standard cast iron because that is American way of doing it. The cars on the outside might be as futuristic and flashy as possible, but underneath it's prehistoric tech. And so it's not going to be a dual overhead cam, instead it's just going to be a regular push rod with 2 valves per cylinder and cast iron heads. And we're going to make the crank out of cast iron, the conrods out of cast, and the pistons also out of cast. Everything is just going to be cast, cast, cast. Let's see, now the original engine makes a pathetic and appalling 135 horsepower from a 5.8 liter V8. So you get like half the horsepower from the Vantage engine for even more displacement.
Nice.
And unlike its worst days, it had a compression ratio of about 8.8 to 1. So let's lower the compression ratio. Let's keep the cam profile the way it is. I'm not going to play around with it. And let's see if we're going to get close to the original horsepower numbers. Now, of course, it's going to be naturally aspirated because what is turbocharging? And it's also going to be a standard carburetor. I'm not entirely sure whether it's a 2-barrel or a 4-barrel, but you know what, it's my version of this car. So it's going to be a 4-barrel with twin carburetors, standard, and it runs on this all new, beautiful, unleaded regular gasoline. And there we go. With the fuel mixture, I'm just going to keep it the way it is. Especially the ignition timing is also going to be the same. And let's rack up the RPMs roughly around 6,000 RPM. Many American car engines are notorious for being low RPM but high torque engines. The headers are... I have seriously no clue. I'm reaching the limits of my knowledge about cars and car engines, so we're just going to make it a short cast with dual exhausts, no valves, and this brand new two-way catalytic converter with baffled, double baffled mufflers. And it makes 15 horsepower. Okay. Alright, I switched around some stuff, and now the engine is running a bit richer than regular. And the ignition timing is a lot more retarded, just like I am. And I also lowered the RPM a little bit, and now it makes 143 horsepower at its peak, which is a bit more than 135 it used to do in real life. It's only now I realize that I have the wrong displacement. This is a 244 cubic inch engine, whereas we need 351. So I'm going to head back for a moment and rack up the displacement. Now, I do not know the exact dimensions, what is the bore and what is the stroke, but always remember, kids, V8 American engines are big bore, short stroke. So I'm just gonna, increase the bore until we've probably reached, what was it again? 351. And in the meantime, this will also increase the power output because, hey, it's a bigger engine, so that will only work in our favor. Almost there. There we go. 350.4, which I think is enough, and now we have 175 horsepower and a slight bit of knocking, which I will now try to fix, and then we'll move on to designing the car. Alright, welcome to the fun part, designing the Lincoln Lagonda, or should I say Lagonda by Lincoln. As you can already see, I did some off-camera work. I already gave the car a Bill Blass Designer Series-esque paint job with a deep, lustrous blue and some faded cream vinyl top, along with some chrome tires with a rim that matches the paint of the vinyl top. And from here, we're going to start designing the Lagonda by Lincoln. And we're going to start with the front. I'm going to start with the bumper. I am going to add this thing right here. This is an absolute battering ram, but we're going to try anyway to force it on the elegant and rectangular original European design and just smash a 5 mile per hour bumper on it that would also grace other Lincoln cars. And so we are going to stretch it a bit. Make sure it kind of extends. I'm going to put it in 3D mode, and now I can push it back a little bit. Make sure that it protrudes enough to be a battering ram, but not enough that it, starts to look odd. So we're going to extend it even a bit more. I don't know, that's a whole lot, but we're going to push it back, and then we're going to widen it a bit more so that you can see it. It's a substantial bumper. It's a big one. So there we go. And of course, it's going to be chrome. There we go. No rubber strips on this thing, but we are going to make a rubber top, as you may or may not see, a rubber top, along with some extra chrome strips on it. There we go. There we got the grille, although I do think it's a slightly bit overextending on the sides, so I'm going to push it back a bit, but there we go. That is your American chrome bumper for the Lincoln version of the Lagonda. Now, Lincoln is known around this time of year as the car with the hideaway headlights. So the big Continental sedan, or the town car, I believe, already had the hidden headlights, and so did the Mark series. But the new Versailles for 77 did not have the hideaway headlights. It already adopted the brand new, just being approved by the government, rectangular headlights. And I am also going to choose those headlights because this car needs to look like it's ready for the 80s and not stuck in the 70s. So we're going to add these headlights. Now, this was also the era where everything was placed within a chrome square box inside a chrome square box, inside of a black box, inside of a chrome box. Everything had lining, everywhere, silver lining everywhere. And we're also going to do that by adding one of these vents. And we're going to make them chrome. And we're going to make sure that it's going to be black. We're going to make sure that these are at the top layer. And what we're then going to do is going to move it over here, make it slightly bigger in such a way that the headlights are kind of floating inside blackness, but are still surrounded by chrome frame, if you kind of can call it like that. I mean, it does add a little bit extra than just putting the taillights on it. I'm going to widen it a bit more so that it becomes a bit more substantial. There we go. It looks already slightly better. Now, we got the headlights, but we still need to work on the turning signals. Ooh, well, that's going to be a tough job because I don't really have a lot of space to work with anymore when it comes to placing the turn signals. Now, usually these American cars would have the turn signals on the corner. That would give it kind of a stately appeal, but I am going to abandon it because I'm going to make it ready for the 1980s. We're going to move up the headlights. There we go, so that we got some little space down there, and that's where I'm going to put the indicators. And I'm going to make use of these. We're going to make them rather slim. We're going to put them down here, like that, so that the slanted part joins with the side of the headlights. There we go. And we're going to change it to the more kind of white-ish glass. Amber colored turning signals are not strictly American. It's more European, but it is the time when some of the American car makers were adopting the amber turning signals to, you know, kind of get the European feeling. But I'm going to stick with the old traditional white indicators. And I can also test the lights. There we go. We got ourselves the indicators, which are currently white. Now, if there is one trademark of the Lincoln, it is waterfall grille. It's the Rolls-Royce grille glued on a Lincoln car body. And naturally, it's like the familiar face. You can instantly tell it's a Lincoln simply because of the waterfall grille. And so we're going to apply the waterfall grille once again. And we're going to put it right here in such a way that it is massive, that it is present, that it is in your face, but it kind of cascades down and is kind of shaped by the protruding bumper. We're also going to make sure that it is 3D so that it really becomes a kind of like a straight piece and that it does not follow the body of the car. And we're also going to put it slightly more inward into the body. And there we go. The front end design for the Lincoln Lagonda. Now, onto the side, and I'm going to keep it very simple. The only thing we need are mirrors, door handles, and also indicators, because those were mandatory by, I believe, 1968. Or indicators or reflectors. I'm not sure. I am not going to add side trim or anything. We're just going to keep it as understated as possible. Now, we first need a mirror, and I think these are 70s enough that we're going to put it right there. I'm going to make sure they're slightly bigger, and they're chrome, of course. Now, once again, I'm not sure whether this was already the time period when luxury cars had 2 mirrors or 1, just, one on the driver's side. But you know what, in terms of, I don't know, being technologically advanced and safety, we're just going to stick with 2 mirrors. We also need the door handles, and I think I'm going to go with some rather futuristic ones, door handles that do not feature like a push button to open it, but just kind of like these flaps, and I think it looks fairly modern. Maybe I'll add some extra badging on the side, but that's something for a later date. And I'm also going to add the reflectors. Now, to keep in line with the theme, I'm going to use the same kind of shape I've used before. And so this time it is going to be kind of like orange, but a little more subtle than that, if possible. Like kind of like this. And let's do that in reverse so that that's not reverse. That is reverse. So that kind of the slanted part is also pointing towards the rear. Give it somewhat of a low, sleek profile. And, I don't really know what is the reflector part, but let's just stick with this. It's pretty clear what it is. Now it's time to design the rear end. Once again, I am going to break out the battering ram bumper we used before, and we're going to use this one with 2 cutouts. This is actually a modern day, more like a pickup truck bumper, but I don't care. It's whatever your imagination is, So we're going to use it again. We're going to make it 3D. We're going to make sure that it extends all the way. And then we're going to push it back a bit. And there we go. We got our rear bumper. Kind of like this. Once again, we're going to make it chrome. Once again, we're going to make it rubber on top. We are going to make it with chrome little strips. And we're also going to add exhaust pipes. I'm going to go for the rectangular or square versions, I should say, instead of round versions. And it's going to be dual exhaust. We're just going to do it like this, subtly placed under the cutouts of the rear bumper. Now, this brings us to a second Lincoln theme, the massive Continental rear tire, fake rear tire hump. That kind of gives the idea that it still has the Continental spare tire, but which is not true because it's just lying flat in the trunk space. But anyway, first, to add a little bit of kind of sportiness, but also to keep it in tune with the rear end design of the Mark. Well, more like the Mark IV, not the Mark V. I'm going to add this little thing right here. And then just going to extend it across and give it a flat panel feeling. So that it feels a bit more, sporty. And then we're going to add the taillights, which are going to be, let me have a quick look. This one right here. These are kind of the taillights that you also see on the rear end of the Continental Mark IV. Remember, this car was designed right around the same time the Continental Mark IV was still, being sold. So we're going to use it. And here we go again. It needs to have the chrome lining so that we have this typical chrome strip or chrome line, blackness, and then, the chrome again, and then once again, certain blackness, and then the taillight, because, that's decorative for some reason. But it kind of looks cool with this bumper design that is kind of sticking out of the taillights. There we go. And it also looks kind of sharp simply because it's slanted. Now it's time for the ultimate design piece of the Lincoln, the Continental tire hump. And do I have the item for you? There we go. But in Lincoln, it's always a bit more subtle. It's a bit more oval. So we're going to stretch it a bit. It's still pretty much in your face. We are going to make sure it's more inside. We're also going to kind of slant it a bit. And make it somewhat more like this. Make it less. And then we're going to give it the body color, of course, which is going to be dark blue. Dark blue. Dark blue. Oh, there we go. Finally, dark blue. And dark blue. And there we have it, the rear end design of the Lincoln Lagonda. Now let me add some extra badging, and let's go over to the grand reveal. Lincoln proudly presents to you the Lincoln Lagonda for 1977, the ultimate step in the Lincoln ladder, a car that leaves the personal luxury realm and enters the ultra-prestigious grand touring market segment. Designed by Europeans, finished by Lincoln. I think the car looks absolutely dreadful. The American design doesn't work on the narrow front end, and somehow I managed to make it more look like a second-gen Cadillac Seville than a Lincoln, but whatever. So tell me, did you like this video? Would you like to see more what-if cars? Let me know in the comments, and when you do, also add your what-if car you'd like to see. And who knows, maybe I'll make it in the next episode of this series.